No, I told him I'm like locked in his office.
All right, guys, we are live. Welcome. So we are here with Late Night with Master Networks, and we have a special guest. We have Holly Haven, North Texas Realtor. Holly, how you doing?
Hey, good. How are you?
I am good. And of course, Michael Tritthart. And we're going to be going through some questions, and we were just kind of laughing a little bit about maybe Holly's husband making an appearance, and she's kicked him out with the dogs, locked the door to make sure that he isn't walking through and interrupting the session.
Right. Would it be 2021 and 2020 without Zoom interruptions?
Yeah, pretty much, right? I mean, that's the way it's going to be, right? So, guys, what we're going to be doing tonight is to go in and talk a little bit about real estate. We're going to talk a little bit about Holly's background and her experience in real estate, and actually a pretty well-rounded person. We could talk real estate, we could talk web design, we could talk bodybuilding, we could talk implementation of video marketing that she learned last week at Video Marketing World.
Yeah,
we talk a lot of stuff, right? Politics, but we won't go there because
depends who's watching.
Yeah, we're going to stay in the lane, right? All right, but we're going to go in and have a great time as we go through this. And we want to go in and make sure that you guys have the ability to ask questions. So if you have any questions for Holly, if you have any questions regarding real estate, now is the time to ask those questions. So let's just start with a little bit on your background. Holly, tell them a little bit about who you are, where you're at, and what your main focus is right now.
Yeah, so I'm a licensed realtor in North Texas, which for us really means north of Dallas. So Collin County is my main area, which encompasses Frisco, Prosper, McKinney, Salina. Anybody looking to move to the area, that's pretty much where they tend to fall right now, is in these suburbs north of Dallas. I've been licensed for a long time, but I really kind of came the long route back around to real estate. As you mentioned, I taught high school for 4 years here in Prosper at Prosper High School, and left there to go back into real estate. I joined a team and worked on their team for operations and kind of building, their sales force and bringing everything kind of up to speed. Left there to go work with a marketing company, and I was coaching agents on social media marketing for about 2 years. And in 2018, I realized I was coaching agents to do all the things I should have been doing myself all along. And so I left there and went out on my own, and I've been in real estate. It's just been 3 years in July.
Yeah. Now, let me ask you that, because you mentioned something too about the teaching aspect. And I'm a former teacher as well, did that 6 years, the whole Friday Night Lights stuff. And it was wild and it's crazy. And you taught in Prosper. I was in Allen and Plano, Texas, which is all here in North Texas. But there's a lot of people, a lot of successful real estate agents that are former teachers.
Yeah.
Why? Why do you think that's such a big, added bonus to be a teacher?
That's a good question. And we see a lot of people transition from education to real estate. And I think, the reason people start looking, right, is there's a lot going on in the school. There's a lot more than dealing with the education, right? Teaching the kids is great. I used to tell people the kids are awesome. They each come with 2 to 4 parents. And I had high school cheerleaders and drill team, and it was awesome. It was its own experience, but you get burned out really quickly. At least a lot of people do. And so I found my passion was teaching. It wasn't necessarily teaching high school or teaching kids or teaching in the school, atmosphere, but I teach people every single day. So that transition is so easy. When I realized it was teaching that I really loved, it didn't matter what I was teaching, as long as I was passionate about the content. And I love real estate. I love helping people get into their home, meeting their goals. And it's not about just moving into a house. It's the largest financial investment almost anyone ever will make, right? Most of us have more of our investment is sitting in that roof over our head than it is anywhere else. So educating them on not only the process, but also what they might expect from the financial or the investment side of things, depending on what their goals are. So I think
you have a lot of people too that are on the buy side and the sell side that when they find out you're an educator and you come in from an education point of view, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think they lean into that because they see you as the mentor. They see you as the teacher, right? And they're the student, and they're like, I really need that advice. I need that expertise. And somebody that can come in and properly explain the contract and the addendums, what's happening, I think that's a huge advantage. And the reason why I'm saying that is there's a lot of people in today's world that are looking to leave the occupation that they're in for various reasons. Yeah. I've seen it all over social media. A lot of people are like, I'm done. I'm just tired of the nonsense. I'm tired of whatever's going on. and I'm looking to start my own business. I'm looking to start my own career. And I think there's going to be not just a huge influx of teachers. I think there's going to be a huge influx of real estate agents into the market. What do you think on that?
Yeah, I agree. I think there definitely is going to be an influx. That always happens with a strong market too. We have,
Right,
what we might refer to as an easy real estate market right now because things are moving so quickly.
right.
We always get a large influx of new agents during that time. And when real estate gets a little bit more difficult, we have some kind of a shift. We might see a foreclosure market in 2022. We don't know what that's going to look like with some of the forbearance things and things that started in 2020. So when that market shifts a little bit, then we see people, seep back out of the real estate market
Right.
because they're just not quite prepared. So I think part of the thing about being an educator is you're naturally a learner. And I think that's why educators do so well. They tend to shift easier. They learn that next thing just a little bit faster.
Because you mentioned forbearance, right? And I was teaching and instructing real estate agents back in 2008, 2009, when we had, the short sale situation and we had the craziness of 08 and 09. And I saw it firsthand. Those agents that were able to adjust and change their business and make a 180 and get in and get educated and get certified in short sales and so forth, they thrived. And those that didn't, like you said, we had a contraction. We had a contraction of agents that are out there.
Yeah.
But you mentioned the market that we're in, and it's
hot and heavy.
The market in the United States is insane, right? And worldwide, it's insane. But it's even heightened in North Texas, in my opinion. And I think you have some stats that you want to share with us as well from 2020 and also 2021.
Yeah, it was crazy. Right before we jumped on this call, I was like, I'm just going to pull some really hard numbers here. And so from 2019, and I'll just skip over 2020 because we know it was crazy. And we're only 10 and a half months into 2021. Right. 2019 in Prosper alone, I didn't even pull the whole county. I just pulled Prosper, Texas, which for a lot of people, it's a pretty small area, small suburb north of Dallas.
Let's talk about those small suburbs. So you guys know, let's talk Texas for a little bit because we have some people that they don't understand Texas. It's a small little area. What, 27 square miles or something, like that?
27 square miles.
But $50 million football stadium.
Yeah.
State-of-the-art schools. I live in McKinney, which bumps up to Prosper. We got a $70 million football stadium. We bump up.
You always like to do that. You act like we're in a competition on the football stadium.
It's
you
totally
say this every time we talk.
Well, we're winning. No, we're winning in the millions, but we're not winning in the one loss. You guys have us in that. But that's what I'm saying, though, is people do not truly understand this market because it's so closely tied to the schools. Allen, Texas, right next to McKinney, $65 million football stadium, $70 million, $50 million in Prosper. And then, of course, you got Frisco, who, their kids get to play in the Dallas Cowboys practice facility called the Star. So people, families that are looking to move to North Texas, they see all of this, and if their kid is definitely in football, they're in. If they're in cheerleading, they're in. If they're in the band, they're in. If they're just in to have an amazing time as a kid in school and get great education, they're in. So these schools, that's a major driver of real estate in this area. It's insane. And
so many of the schools are so many of the schools are highly rated too. Yes. All across Collin County, you have excellent options for highly rated schools, K through 12. Yeah. So it drives up that value of, if you're looking to move from another state and you're thinking North Texas, people are literally coming here like en masse because I'm going to say you can get a lot for your money compared to other states, but the stats for what happened in our specific market, in our little town of Prosper, 2019, our average sales price was $418,000. 2021, only 10 and a half months in, $589,000. New average sales price. 419 to 589
in less than 2 years.
In less than 2 years.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. I think I did the math right, and it was a 41% increase, which is unheard of. So imagine, even if you bought your house in 2019, you've already gained maybe 100,000, 150,000 in 2 years. And what we are pretty sure we know, we are not going to lose this base value, right? Everybody goes through little ups and downs, and we have some resettling, and that's where that kind of forbearance and maybe some foreclosure and things in 2022 might start coming into play. But this is not like, oh, I bought a house for 500,000 and next year it's only going to be worth 400 or 350. We don't have those kind of bubbles. I think we had a reset.
And I think I know why, but I want to hear from you. Why do you think in North Texas we do not have that type of bubble?
You know what? I think I want to say there's so much to offer and we still have so much land to build on. We are not boxed in. Our Metroplex, when we say the Metroplex, we call Dallas Fort Worth the Metroplex, right? And for somebody who's not from Texas, it doesn't seem like you're like, oh, I'm going to live in Dallas or Fort Worth. Well,
No.
those are, you're not going to live in Dallas and work in Fort Worth unless you're crazy,
Yeah.
because you're going to be driving an hour and a half back and forth, every single day. And that's not in traffic.
And I think I'm going to give Steve Lester the credit on this. He's with Master Networks, like the two of us. And I think I saw this from him originally. It's a map of the United States, and DFW, the Metroplex, is highlighted. And don't quote me on the numbers, but I think DFW is larger than the population of 40 something states in the United States.
It feels like it.
Yeah. I mean, I had to drive to Fort Worth today. I could have gone to Oklahoma sooner than
Right. Yeah, for sure.
than to get to Fort Worth from where I'm at. It's a beast.
It is. And so that's what, when we say the Metroplex keeps growing. The Metroplex used to really be right there around DFW Airport, maybe into Plano, maybe into kind of Arlington. We just kind of had this small bubble, and that bubble just keeps getting bigger and bigger. We're going, way north into Gunner, which is almost the Metroplex now. And right, if you don't know where Prosper is, you certainly don't know where Gunner is.
Yeah.
And then a little bit further east, we're getting out into Princeton and Farmersville, and these smaller towns around are becoming part of the Metroplex.
Yeah.
Part of the reason that happened really this year was all the changes in work from home, right? People no longer had to commute, and it changed their buying habits. They needed more space inside the home, right? Whether they were going to homeschool or they had now, maybe two people working from home full time instead of one, or no one working from home. So it changed the buying patterns completely. If it cut out their commute potentially forever, or maybe in the future they're only going to commute a couple of days a week and not 5 days a week, they realized they could live a little bit further away. They could change school districts. They could do, it was like their world opened up. I had clients moving from out of state, not changing jobs, just literally moving to North Texas and keeping their job in whatever state they left, because they were remote.
Yeah, and they could live cheaper or in a better area than where they were at because of that. So let me ask a couple questions on that. Let's go back though to the pricing.
Yeah.
Are you seeing people who bought in 2019 now turning around and saying, "Oh man, I'm selling. I've doubled my money, or I'm cashing out, and we're going"?
We see a lot of people having that conversation, and I can tell you, I'm probably not my best salesperson on this, because if somebody calls me and says, "Hey, I bought this house early 2020. I'm ready to sell. I know I'm going to make $150,000." The first thing I ask them is, have you lived in the house for 2 years? Well, if you built the house or you moved into the house early 2020, you have not lived there for 2 years. And if you do not live in your house for 2 of 5 years, so if you don't live there for the first 2 years that you owned it even, capital gains tax will bite you right in the tail end in a market like this. So you might have a big increase, but if you're going to turn around and pay a big chunk of capital gains tax, then you might want to hold till that 2-year mark. So I've literally been advising people, talk to your CPA, find out what those numbers look like, because it may be advantageous. Maybe you need to sell right now, or you have to sell, and it still makes sense to pay the taxes on that capital gains. But it may not make sense. It may make sense to hold for another 3 to 6 months, and get your full 2 years in and then sell.
What about renting? Has that come into play with some of your conversations? People are like, well, I want to get out of here and go somewhere else, but I don't want to sell. I can't sell. Can we rent? Are you seeing a strong renters market right now?
Very strong renters market. Because the prices are up, some of our newer investors or less, I don't want to say less educated investor, but an investor who may not just have the cash flow to just keep buying properties. This market felt like a really tough market to compete in and to buy properties in, because generally as an investor, one of the things they say is I don't want to pay market value, right? I want to pay less because I'm going to rent it out, or I'm going to do these things.
Deals. Find me the deals, Holly.
Find me the deals. Yeah. And right now I'm like, there's no deals. This is a house. Do you want it? But here's what it'll rent for. So, for example, a house that maybe in 2019 was renting for $2,200 a month is renting for $2,900 a month right now. That's a pretty big cash flow difference, especially if you already owned that property and you got it at 2019 pricing. But even if you're investing now, we don't think these prices are going backwards. So every day somebody waits to get into the market, whether it's buy a home or invest in a home, um, they're costing themselves money.
I totally agree with that. And I have a friend that was looking to rent an apartment here in McKinney. And she was doing the research and doing the studies, and she talked to somebody, and she's like, that person said, I want to let you know that just this year alone, rent in apartments in McKinney has gone up 70%.
Mm-hmm.
70%. I mean,
Yeah.
now is the time, guys. If you're thinking about getting into the real estate market, whether it's North Texas or anywhere else, now is the time
Mm-hmm.
to, maybe you can't be in Prosper, maybe you can't be in McKinney financially yet,
Yeah.
but those outlying areas, you absolutely can be in there. And I think you need to look at your money and your finances and say, I need to make a smart business decision,
Yeah.
and not just pay rent, pay somebody else. Right.
Yeah.
And that's something I learned years ago. My dad's a realtor and he retired last year. Great timing on his retirement. He retired February 1st of 2020. I'm like, you couldn't have timed that any better. And he was a real estate agent since the mid 80s. And I remember when we were graduating college, and we were moving to North Texas from Oklahoma, and we were looking to maybe rent or buy. And he goes, well, here, let me solve that for you. And he's like, give me all the money in your wallet. I'm like, what? And he's like, give me all your money in your wallet. And I said, okay, like $50 or whatever. He goes, okay, come with me. And we walk into the bathroom, and he opens up the lid to the toilet, and he gets ready to throw the money in. He goes, this is what a renter does every month when you have to pay rent.
Yeah.
Is this what you want to do? And I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. Give me my money. I'm like, no, I don't want to do that. I'm like, okay. That's all I needed to know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I want to buy a house, Holly. It's 2021. I'm in North Texas. What do I need to do as a buyer in North Texas to, besides have a thick skin, maybe some therapy, and massive amounts of alcohol on hand to get me through
Lots
the
of
day?
alcohol.
How do I get through and actually buy a house in North Texas?
Yeah, good question, because it's been such a tight market. That what is happening is we just have really low inventory. So we have low inventory across the board. In the past, if we had low inventory, our builders could kind of bail us out. So I would always take my buyers to a builder and be like, let's build you something. Easy
Right.
answer. This year, not so much. Every single builder in our little area, so even Frisco, Prosper, McKinney, there's not a single builder I can walk into today and contract. I can put my buyers on a wait list, and they might be one of 200 or more on a wait list. Most of the builders are telling us if they don't have anything available, their next available lots are coming up second quarter of 2022 or well into summer. So there's not even ground to break. So they're so far behind. We have supply chain shortages, we have labor shortages, we have everything. I mean, it's taking 15 plus weeks to get windows for every single house. So if you go to build a house, if I can contract you today, it's an 18-month-ish build time for most of my builders.
Wow.
So, that's, you're talking a year and a half later, a lot can change in your life in a year and a half. So
Absolutely.
That's just kind of the craziness that's happening in the market. So really what I'm doing is I'm sitting down with my clients. First step is we talk to a lender, really a qualified local mortgage broker. Wherever you are, wherever you're buying a house, get a local mortgage broker, somebody that's really respectable, because, and I'm not going to use the big bank names, right? But all the banks that we all know, they have a tendency to be very bureaucratic. It's hard to get a hold of somebody. They work 9 to 5, they turn off their phones, they go home, and there's no questions being answered when things are falling apart.
Right.
So those local mortgage brokers are a game changer. And it helps you actually be a stronger buyer if you're competing for a property. So if that listing agent is looking at, 3 offers that are very similar, and one has an amazing local mortgage broker that's pretty well known, he picks up the phone, he calls that listing agent, he says, hey, my buyer's highly qualified. Here's what's happening. Here's what they can do. I've already looked at all their, paperwork. We're good to go. All we need is the house. That's a really strong offer. So that's number one, is that you have to have a strong approval letter from a local mortgage broker. Don't call me with some
and to get a list of
quick in a rocket.
Or something that starts with Wells and ends with Fargo.
Exactly. Any of them, right?
Yeah, exactly. All right. So if I wanted to reach out to you to get a list of some of the local mortgage professionals that you prefer to work with, could they reach you at Haven Home Team? .com
They
to get
sure
that
can.
listing.
Yep,
Okay.
that's my website. They can find me at Haven Home Team on any other social platform, Facebook, Instagram as well.
Okay. So walk us through what a buyer has to do to buy this house. So we got the pre-approval process. We got to understand that we gotta get that
Yeah.
shaped up. That's huge. But
Yep.
okay, let's say we've done that. Now what? How do I get my contract accepted?
Yeah. So budget's going to be a big difference here, right? If we're talking under 500,000, we're in high competition. 500,000 and over, slightly less competition, just depends on the house and the specific location. But what I'm telling most of my buyers right now is most of the time we need to have some cash on hand to pay over appraised value or potentially over appraised value. And what has happened because our prices gained so quickly over this last 18 months to 2 years, the appraisals have come up more slowly than the competition on market value. So market value is what someone is willing to pay for a property.
Right.
Appraisal value is what the appraiser can justify based on other like homes in the area and tell the lender you're safe, right? This home holds the value. Well, it happened so quickly that our appraisers were having a hard time catching up. So we had what we were calling an appraisal gap. 8, 9 months ago, that appraisal gap was pretty big, and we were seeing offers 50 to 100,000 over pretty steadily. So if you were trying to buy a house that you thought was priced at 500,000, you might have been paying upwards of 550 to 600,000, depending on what you were competing for. If it has a
Yeah.
pool or something really special happening, then you're definitely competing. So that's kind of the first conversation. How much cash do we have to work with? What does your loan structure look like, right? I have clients who put down as little as 3%. I have clients who pay 100% cash. So there's a structure all the way along the way. There is a way for almost every single person to buy a home, right? There is a path to home ownership, whether it means, hey, I need to get my credit together over the next 12 months and then I can buy, or I'm ready to go, but I only have X amount of dollars to play with, right? There's an
Right.
answer for everything.
Right.
It's just maybe going to be, maybe I can't get you in a specific school district, or maybe I can't get you in a certain square footage, but we can find you something. We can find you something great. You just have to be prepared for the process. And that process really has been having cash over to be really competitive.
Okay.
Saying that, I hate using those blanket statements because I look at every single home before my client makes an offer. We run comps on that particular property. I want to know how long the days on market, other houses in the neighborhood. I want to know what they sold over list price and price per square foot. So we really dive into the numbers because that's not something my clients have access to. That's what they're paying me for, right? They're paying me for the expertise of am I paying too much?
They're paying you to be the real estate teacher. Like, teach me,
Yeah.
Holly, show me,
Teach me. Yeah.
guide me. Exactly.
Yeah. And so because we have access to this data, we then have to know what to do with it. So I can look at a neighborhood and say, hey, this home is priced exactly right. Exactly right. Which means it's probably going to appraise because I have 10 other homes I can justify it against in the same neighborhood. Now, is it going to go for that price? I don't know. How bad do you want it?
In this market, no. I'm shaking my head going, no,
I
it's
know.
going to
I
go
know.
way up. Yeah.
So I'm speaking on the buyer side right now, right?
Yeah.
We'll come to that listing side in a
Yeah,
minute because some of those
exactly.
listing agents are making mistakes too.
Yeah.
um, Yeah, because the first thing that's happening, because our days on the market have been so low, I mean, our homes have been selling pretty much in 3 to 7 days, like quickly. So
Yeah.
I can talk about average days on the market and what those have done over the last 2 years too. But really, we're seeing the best homes are going in 3 to 7 days from hitting the market. So if a home has been sitting for 10 or 11 days, my clients will literally call me and go, why has 123 Main Street been sitting on the market for so long?
Yeah.
11 days, Michael.
What's
Why is it
wrong
on
with
the
this?
market? What's wrong with it? Why is it on the market for so long?
11 days.
11
Oh
days.
my
Yeah,
gosh.
4 to 6 months used to be normal.
I remember the market I was looking at houses that were sitting on the market for like 165 days, right? And
Yeah,
that's when you go, what's wrong with that one?
yeah,
But
yeah.
11 days, that's crazy. So
11
let me
days.
ask you this. We're going to get to the sell side here in just a bit, but
Yeah.
what does home ownership mean to you?
Oh, that was a hard question. What do you
It is.
mean? What do you mean by that?
I mean, just not even as a realtor, just as an American, as a Texan.
Yeah.
What does home ownership mean to you?
It's freedom because I'm not tied to a landlord and how well they're maintaining the house, or if they're not going to replace that roof after the hailstorm. I have a little more control of my life and my wealth if I'm building equity in something, and building equity until this year, we didn't build equity in our cars. Suddenly we have a used car market, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That's not the normal. Don't go invest in
Crazy how
used
that works. Yeah,
cars.
don't go out and buy a car before you buy a house. Right? Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Or in the middle of buying a house, which I've had people
Yes.
do.
I've had people do that too.
Um,
Or quit your job. Don't quit your job 3 days before closing. I had somebody I
exactly.
knew, one of my good friends, do that. I'm like, dude, that is the dumbest thing I've ever heard.
I
Can
know.
we?
And they do. They actually call your employment like 24 hours before closing to make sure you're still employed. Yeah, don't do
Absolutely. Don't think you can game the system.
that. No.
They check on it.
Oh my goodness.
So
You quit your job the day after. Like give it
exactly,
3
just
more
wait a
days.
day. Get to closing, celebrate with some champagne,
Yeah.
then go and quit.
Yeah. One more thing on that buy side of really writing those offers that are competitive, you have to try to find out what the seller's motivation is, right? So as the buyer's agent, I know what my buyer's motivation is. And for most people, it's just to get into a house, right? And my buyers need to be really flexible right now. The more flexible my buyer can be, the more likely we are to write the strongest offer. Because I've had sellers on the other side that they need to stay in that house 90 more days because their other
They
house
gotta
isn't
find
even
a house.
finished,
Yeah,
right? I
they're
want to
building.
sell
They gotta
it.
find a house. Yeah,
Yeah, they want to sell it, but then they want to become your tenant for 30, 60, 90 days. So if my buyer is amenable to that and flexible and they don't have to move into the house right away, then they could be the winning offer strictly on that detail alone. Because imagine the amount of money the seller saves by not having to move twice into a short term
so if I did like a
rental.
90-day lease back, I'm a buyer, and I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna buy it, but I'm gonna give you 90 days lease back.
Yep.
So that would be a good play, right?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah. But we have to know what the seller's motivation is.
right,
So it takes the buyer's agent picking up the phone, calling that listing agent, say, hey, what does your seller need? When do they need to be out? Do they
right.
need a lease back? What kind of things would make this a win-win for your seller? Because we want this to work for everybody. And if I can write the strongest offer, then my clients have the better chance of getting it. And I don't need to write the little buyer love letter, to tell them
Right.
who's buying their house. I'm just going to try to give them the absolute best offer. And that usually for most sellers, it's most money, in the bottom line. They want the most money they can get for it.
Yeah.
But that's not always the winning offer. If I can pay $5,000 more, but I can't give you a 30 or 60-day lease back, I might not be the winning offer because that 30 or 60-day lease back might outweigh $5,000 in total value.
Right.
So
And
the
with your
flexibility.
expertise as a real estate agent, now you've been doing this for 3 years or so. You have those conversations as a buyer's agent talking to the seller's agent. You can kind of pick up tone and inflection and certain keywords, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And if their seller needs something, if they really do need that lease back, they better be communicating that with us because we'll never write that into the offer otherwise, right? My people don't
Right.
not want to move in for 90 days. They want to move in their house. But
Right.
if that listing agent can tell us what they can, and hopefully they're just telling us the good stuff. And I mean, actually being on the buyer's side, I love it when the agent tells me too much.
Yeah. You're like, oh yeah, no, go ahead. Yeah, spill the beans. Go,
Yeah. Tell me how bad they have to sell this house,
Yeah,
how bad they
exactly.
need the money out of this.
Sometimes you just got to get people talking, right?
That's
And if
right.
you get people talking, they'll tell you as much as what you need and maybe even more so, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Now, let's flip that coin over a little bit. Let's talk a little bit from the sell side. So they're in the catbird seat in this market, right? I mean, this
Yeah.
is the ultimate seller's market that I've ever seen,
Yeah.
but they can still screw up and make mistakes. Would you agree?
Yeah, I totally agree. So it's such a weird market because it is moving so quickly. Sellers aren't wanting to do anything to the property. They don't want to repaint. They don't want to change the carpet. They don't want to do, certain things, which is okay. It's more okay in this market than ever because people are so willing and so needy of getting a house because they just don't have enough to choose from.
Right.
Is the best time if you're ever going to say, I'm not going to do any maintenance or fix my house up. This is the best market to do it.
So
However,
if I'm a lazy penny pension seller, this is the perfect market for me. Is that
the
what, is that
perfect
what I
market
get?
for you.
Okay.
The perfect
I
market.
just want to clarify that. All right, good.
We'll talk later.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, but there's some psychology that's happening because this last year we've talked about real estate more, and not just in real estate, but across all platforms, right? People are just talking about real estate because it's changing so quickly and everybody knows how crazy it is. They know that there's a wait list for every builder. They know what's happening. More educated ish, right, than ever. So
Holly, I've been to Zillow. Thank you.
yes. Did you already get yours estimate?
Yes,
Yeah,
yes, I have. I can sell my house for
exactly.
$5 billion according to this estimate.
Yeah, exactly. It's funny. It's probably been like 5 or 6 years ago now. Zillow's CEO his house went on the MLS
Oh yeah.
and his estimate was off by like
Oh
$500,000
yeah.
or
It was
something
like
insane.
way bonkers
It was
off.
like so ridiculous. The
Yeah.
Zestimate and then his actual listing. It was like the best marketing for realtors of all
The
time.
best meme ever, right?
Yeah.
For real
Yeah.
estate.
Yeah, and it was a true story. So what happens? I'll tell a little background right there. What happens on Zillow and Zestimates, why they're so bad and why the value is never correct. Texas is a non-disclosure state. What that means is we do not disclose those sold prices to any of the other platforms. So if you want to know what your neighbor's house sold for, you're going to have to physically pick up the phone, call a realtor, and ask a very specific question because we can't market it. We can't tell people that it sold for X amount of dollars, which means Zillow has no access to that information, which is why their estimates are more screwed up in Texas than some other states.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
just a little tip there. So if you look at your estimate, they don't know anything.
That is a true fact. That is true.
Yeah. So there's been some seller psychology and buyer psychology this last 18 months. Sellers keep hearing the values are up. I can sell my house for anything, right?
Right.
So what happens is if I sell the neighbor's house for $850,000, right? Then this neighbor wants to sell their house for $875 because he got $850 and I have, nicer carpet, whatever it is.
Keeping up with the Joneses. I gotta beat them, right?
So it's fine that they want to sell at $875, but they want to list it at $875 because they don't want to take a penny less. Well, what was happening in this market and what is still happening to some extent, it's a little bit smaller degree, is the appraisal values. If I price this house at say $875 and I can't even get it appraised for maybe $850, I don't even know that I can get it appraised for $850. Maybe I'm looking more at like that $840 mark.
Right.
Then if I price it at $875, I have left such a gap that the buyer already has to be prepared for. It's not the buyer's decision to come and offer over. It's the seller saying, I'm requiring you to pay over value for my house. And the psychology there flips the entire script. Suddenly the house has been on the market for 11 or 12 or 32 days.
Holy, why is my house not selling? It's been on the market for 14 days.
Yeah. And the buyers go, ooh, what's wrong with it?
Yeah.
And then what they start doing is they start lowballing your offer if they offer at all, because now they think something's wrong with it because everything else has sold in 3 to 7 days. Why is your house sitting for 3 weeks or whatever? So the psychology behind that was we had to really, really, really coach our sellers. I understand that you think your house is worth $875, and I'm really not even disagreeing with you. I think we might be able to get an offer of $875. However, based on the other comps in the neighborhood, I think our best appraisal value is somewhere around $840, $850 potentially. So I have no problem pricing your house around that $840, $850 mark, kind of thinking that that's where we're going to get the appraisal. But I need, and you need, the buyer to walk in and love your house so much that they can't walk out without making an offer.
Walk it over.
And they're ready to pay over, because that value over, that's the buyer's decision. The buyer has to say that's the market value because the market has not proven that value yet.
So that's such a great point. It's kind of like, watching those luxury car auctions, right? Like they know the car is going to sell for 1.2, but we're going to start at 950.
Yep.
Right. And you're going to show this nice shiny car, and the same thing that you guys are going to do on the sell side. You're going to clean that house up. You're going to get it. I mean, and I know you have the penny pinchers that don't want to do anything, but I think you probably fold that into the conversation of, look, here's, if you want this, we're going to have to do this.
We have to do all these things. Yeah.
To make that nice shiny car to where people go, ooh, I got to have that.
Yeah. And that's, the homes with the absolute best homes, those are the ones selling on day one with 10 and 15 and 20 offers. Right. We're seeing fewer offers now, and it's really it's been a lot of buyer fatigue. We had a slowdown through August and September when school started. People kind of had to settle. A lot of schools opened this time around that didn't open last year. So people did have to settle a little bit more this time around. But really, we have just so many buyers. They're just so tired, right? They've made so many offers and they can only offer so much. And they really are just like
walking dead out there. Yeah.
I mean, I had buyers that like, we're not going to talk about it for 6 more months. Like, I'll call you. And they're just tired. And, if you don't have enough to compete with, it kind of gets defeating. So we've leveled out a little bit. We've slowed down just slightly.
Is it seasonal, you think? A little bit seasonal? Is it a little bit of seasonal, you think?
Yeah, which is normal, right? That August, September slowdown is very normal, but we didn't have it the previous year. We went 18 months full force with no breaks at all.
It was insane.
Yeah. I mean, we didn't have a Christmas slowdown. We didn't have a school slowdown. We had nothing. So when August came this year, everybody was like, oh, I actually started seeing articles. Are we feeling the shift? Is everything changing?
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Oh,
no,
that's it.
everybody went to school. Just give it a minute. This is
Calm
normal.
down, calm down. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. And
Interesting.
then, we're still having mass exodus from, I'm going to call out 3 states specifically. It's California, New York, and Illinois. And
Is
they're
that, and they're coming here?
moving in mass. Yeah.
Yeah.
And entire family units. I mean,
Like
mom's moving and grandparents are moving and cousins and
grandpa,
uncles.
grandma, everybody's coming.
It is. It's entire family units moving just one after the other. It's like a caravan.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think we've leveled a little bit. We're not in that same crazy hot spot we were in April, May, June, July of this year was insane.
Right.
But we're not really, our inventory is not coming up. We had a little bit of a more inventory in August and September when everything slowed down, but we're right back to being super low inventory. Our builders are not catching up any faster. Our supply chains are not getting any better. We still have ships, sitting in ports, not being unloaded, which is
Right.
where the brick and the windows and the
Everything that you need.
everything you need, the appliances.
Yeah. So basically what you're saying is if you're going to act, now's the time to act. And I think that goes for buyers, that goes for sellers, but I also think we touched on it earlier. Now's the time to act if you're looking to get into real estate. And the 2 of us were associated to Keller Williams. And one of the things Keller Williams has announced is they've got a real estate school that's starting on November 1st, which is amazing. And so you can go and get your real estate license at no cost.
For free.
Yeah, exactly.
For free. I'm like, do you know how many real estate agents around here? Like, what?
Yeah, where was that when I got, Holly's going, where was that 3 years ago when I got my license, right?
Well, I've been licensed since 2002, Michael. I kept it up all those years.
Okay, that's good. That's good.
You should have seen the number of CE hours I had to complete, though, when I reactivated.
CE hours to just sit there and have nothing. But let's say that, back in 2002, it wasn't cheap then. Uh-oh, see, you get choked up on the pricing. It's all right. Uh-oh.
Live. That's perfect for a Facebook Live.
Yeah, exactly. We start talking the fee to get licensed, and it gives you a flashback.
Took one drink of water because I talked too much and I almost killed myself.
Yeah. We might need Ross to give you the Heimlich. We might need an appearance.
I know. If I need Heimlich for water, that's going to be embarrassing. Oh, goodness.
You good?
I'm good. If I didn't choke on water like 3 times a day, I probably have some kind of issue. I need to have it checked. I don't know what it is. I'm going to drown myself. That's how I'm going to die.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so I'm glad that was.
While you gather yourself, let me tell them this. So November 1st, there's a brand new real estate school that's starting, and Keller Williams is rolling that out across the whole system. And you can go to real estate school anywhere you want, and just because it's free doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the best one. Let's throw that little caveat out there. Champions is great. RE Express is another good one. The CE Shop, those are 2 online schools. Yeah. So you go to the school, it's like Pepsi, Coke, and Dr. Pepper. You choose the flavor that works for you. Yeah. But the fact that they have rolled that out makes it that much easier for people to transition out of careers into real estate. And so if you're looking to do that, guys, now's the time. If you're looking to buy, now's the time. If you're looking to sell, now's the time. The market is not, I always hear this too. I'm just going to wait until I get to the top of the market. How the heck are you ever going to know that you're at the top of the market? Yeah. I'm going to wait to sell my house at optimum value. I'm going to wait to buy a house at the valley, the bottom of it. You're never going to know that. You just have to jump in midstream. Yeah, but with that being said, and as we kind of move into the end of all of this, we're going to bust out the crystal ball for 2022.
Oh, goodness.
What do you think?
That's a great segue because I'll first tell you how bad my crystal ball is. Okay, so I'm going to start with that story. Last summer, coming kind of out of the first tight COVID, lockdown, right? We got into about July. Things were looking back to normal in our market. We were running pretty smoothly, and nothing had really changed. So I was like, okay, great. We're building a house, a little bit north here. And so we decided to go ahead and sell our house, move into a rental while we were building. We didn't necessarily have to, but the market was looking good last summer in July. So I'm going to be real transparent here. We sold that house for $550,000. It was about 3,600 square feet, almost a half-acre lot with a pool, outdoor patio, the whole bit, right?
Yeah, school. Right, yeah.
Yeah, sold it. We never even put it on the market, right? I sold it to a client of another agent in the office, and we just moved on. Oh, guys, my crystal ball was broken. Because this summer, I would have sold that house for not a penny less than $750,000.
No. Yeah, oof. Ouch.
750, and that's probably potentially on the low end. And it's just the market itself because pools got real expensive this year.
Oh yeah.
Outdoor
You know,
patios got real expensive this year.
we took the dogs. We got two boxers, and I told my wife last night. I said, "Hey, let's go walk over in Tucker Hill because we love Tucker Hill,
Yeah.
which is in Prosper, just right across the highway from us. And they always do decorations for Halloween. And we're like, okay, let's go walk. First off, we got all the decorations out. These houses, if you ever, I mean, some of you go Tucker Hill, never heard of that. Just go out and Google search Tucker Hill,
Yeah.
Prosper, and you're going to see some amazing houses. And they all look different. That's what I like about them.
Yeah. It feels like New Orleans.
That's exactly what I said last night.
It's a new version of the New Orleans.
Totally. You have your courtyard.
It's
Because
really cool.
you got the mother-in-law compartments in the house, and then you got like a little courtyard. That's exactly what I told my wife last night. I said, this feels like shotgun homes in New Orleans, which I love. I think I just love that vibe.
Yeah.
And New Orleans without the stinky smell.
Right. No smelly streets.
Yeah, I've got relatives that live in New Orleans. I can bust off. Right. But we're walking around. There's only one house on the market in this whole huge community that we saw. And we always do this as we're walking around. We don't look at the flyers. I always ask her, what do you think it is? How much? Because I have my Keller Williams app and I can pull that up and I can look at it. I'm like, okay, what do you think? And she's like, I don't know, 600,000. And I was like, 2 years ago, maybe last year.
Yeah, so last year.
Yeah, I said, I'm going to go 1.2. And we pulled that up and I started laughing. I'm like, yeah, I was a little under 1.5.
Yeah.
This is a house that literally could have sold for 600,000 just a couple years ago. And now it's at 1.5. I'm going, holy moly. I mean, this is crazy. So what do you think? I mean, I know you said you got a busted crystal ball.
Yeah.
Put some duct tape on it, get it back together.
I know. What's it going to do? What are we going to do? So I think we're still going strong. I think here's the deal. If we don't have some economic collapse, much bigger than the North Texas housing market, right? It's going to have to be big. If something like that doesn't happen, I think we're strong and we have 2 to 4 years to even start to unwind our number of buyers to available home ratio. And it's because our builders can't bail us out. They don't have enough land developed to start building houses, and they can only build so many houses at one time because of the labor and the supply chain and all the things. So even when they do have land and it's developed and ready to go, they're only selling like 4 homes a month because of the delays and how long it's taking them to get things done and the permitting, right? You think the entire process is backed up. It used to take them 4 to 6 weeks to get a permit. It's taking them up to 12 weeks to get permits to even start the house. So you contract, and now it's 12 weeks to even get.
Why is that taking so long? Is there just not enough people doing the permit jobs anymore?
Due to COVID.
Oh my God.
It's the answer for everything. Like, legitimately, we have
Due to
no
COVID,
idea.
I am not doing my job anymore. I mean, that's basically.
I don't know. Some people are not cut out to work from home. I don't know what's happening.
I'm going to tell you that right there. That is a true fact.
Yeah.
I mean, some people have lost their focus, and that's where they need coaching. They need peer mentorship. They need something to get them in alignment to get them to that next level.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother class. That's a whole nother topic, kids. We're doing that in the mastery class on October 22nd.
We're talking about that on Friday, right?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. So yeah, I mean that's a big thing. That is true. That's crazy that it's taking 12 weeks to get that out.
Yeah, 12 weeks to get permits, and then I mean, just the entire process is out of process, right? The building timeline is usually very, very strict, and you go from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3, and there's a permit, and then you move to the next phase, and then they're all out of process because if they can't get windows, technically they can't move to the next phase.
Right.
Well, it's taking 15 to 20 weeks to get windows. How long? I mean, the house is going to sit there for 18 months easily. So they've changed the processes. So now they're letting them wrap the houses and go inside and start working them, even though there's no windows. So it depends on the city.
When you wrap the house, you're saying like wrap it with plastic to cover the windows?
Kind of, yeah. Yeah, they're literally wrapping. I had a home in Forney that was being built for a client. They just got brick like a week ago. The house is 85% finished. They just got brick, and we're finalizing, and they'll close in November now. But this has been going on for his house was supposed to close in July. He's going to close at the end of November.
Wow.
Yeah. So everything is about that far backed up, even if it is supposedly running smoothly and under contract and moving forward, everything is that much out of process that it's
So
12 weeks behind.
we got supply chain issues. We
Yeah.
got backup on everything. What about
Yeah.
forbearance and short sales? Do you think that's going to rear its ugly head in 2022?
So
Explain to everybody what the heck is forbearance.
yeah. So in March and April of 2020, due to COVID, they started offering due to COVID. We started offering, well, mortgage companies, the government started saying we have to offer forbearance. Forbearance is kind of like, depended on the mortgage company. There was a lot of little things in the process to help, but ideally you can't pay your mortgage. So you're going to maybe skip up to 6 months of mortgage payments, right? This is allowing people to change jobs or, get a new job or whatever might have been happening if you got laid
Right.
off during COVID. So that was the intent of it. Forbearance is supposed to allow you the option to catch back up. Ideally without a ton of fees so that you don't just keep getting behind.
Right.
So some of them attached that 6 months onto the end. Some of them said, okay, great. Your first payment is due on month 7, but you owe 7 months worth, which if I couldn't pay 1 month worth for 6 months, I can't pay 7 months worth. 7. Right. So
I'm
there was
not good at math, but I'm good at that math. Right. Yeah.
right. Like
Yeah.
I probably still can't pay it if I couldn't pay it to begin with.
Right.
So then, it's just one of those things where it's not that it was a bad idea for everyone, right? The people who did it, some people truly needed it. And that's what it was put in place for. Some people heard, I don't have to pay my mortgage for 6 months or a year
Woo-hoo,
or
party
whatever.
time. Yeah.
They missed the part where they still have to pay it eventually.
Exactly.
So if they did not catch up and they did not make that balloon payment or didn't get put on the end or they didn't have some other agreement with the mortgage company that they could work out, then they're going to go into foreclosure because you agreed to the 6 months, but you didn't catch up by month 12 or whatever their agreement was, then you're going into foreclosure.
Right.
Now, here's the deal. We've had such a strong seller's market. I've had clients personally. We saved them. We saved their credit. We got them cash in hand. We got them out of their house. They paid off their forbearance. They moved into a rental and now we have them under construction on a new home they're going to move into in 18 months.
So basically, the strong market saved them from a short sale type situation, is what you're telling me.
100%. And she was literally crying at the closing table when she sold her house because she was so happy. The weight off her chest was so major,
Oh, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about stress. You want to talk about, the weight of the world on you when you got a foreclosure looming over you and the payment and everything else. And if you did lose your job or had, issues because of COVID related items. Yeah. I mean, that's some stuff that, it's hard for people to function on a daily basis with. So
and
yeah.
they had a major financial situation that was unforeseen. And that's what happened. It all happened, not due to COVID, but during kind of all the same time. And so they took advantage because they needed it. And then they were smart enough to go, you know what? The only way out of this is to take that equity increase. They gained some value, in that next few months, and we were able to cash them out. So my point there is anybody who is in forbearance right now and thinks, wow, I don't know how I'm going to get out of this, they need to be talking to a real estate agent, a trusted real estate agent in their market, because we might be able to save it. There's enough equity in there.
If you're here in North Texas, you talk to havenhometeam.com, but if you're anywhere across the United States, you need to have that conversation sooner than later.
And they can reach out to me as a resource. I'm happy to connect them with a great agent in their market as well. So
I mean, you've got connections all across, through Keller Williams, through Master Networks, all your connections.
Yeah.
You've got all of that. And that's another thing too, with Master Networks, you're a member, of course, and tell them where your chapter is located.
So we are located in Salina at the Keller Williams office there on Preston. We meet every Wednesday from 9 to 10 a.m. And we have a super fun group. People should come see it.
And so, one of the cool things that some people that are listening that may not know this about Master Networks, especially from a real estate point of view, you have all of the trades basically at your disposal.
Yeah.
So if you are a seller who is looking to get optimum value and you want to do a little bit of work, but not break the bank type situation, you contact Holly or you contact anybody within Master Networks, you get connected to them because they can then come out and have the trades
Yeah.
really fix your house up. And I'm going to say this because 3
Trusted
weeks ago,
trades.
yeah, trusted trades, absolutely. 3 weeks ago, I sit down after going to see my son at Abilene Christian. We sit down on the couch on Sunday. I'm like, it's football, NFL, baby. Let's sit it down. And I sit down, and something catches my eye, and I look up, and I'm like, oh man! And there's like a little mold spot on our ceiling,
Oh,
sag. We had a leak, right? And I'm like,
no.
seriously? I mean, we've never had that before. So wife's kind of panicking a little bit. I'm like, hold on, let me call the remediation company from my chapter. They were out there the next day. They determined we had a leak. And here comes the plumber. And what was funny is the plumber's a really nice guy. He comes in, he's putting on his booties to, cover his boots and everything else so we don't track anything in the house. And he looks at our stairs. He goes, oh my gosh, I love your stairs. Who did your stairs? Right? And I'm like, well, that was a member of Master Networks. Give a shout out to Brian McNabb and his crew. But he's like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And then what was funny is he had to come back out for something else the next week. And my wife was the one that was there. And he was saying the same thing. He's like, I told your husband this already, but I love your stairs. These are like the most amazing stairs that I've ever seen. I mean, it's just funny stuff like that. But my wife loves Master Networks because she's got the stairs done, we got the floors done, we got the kitchen sink in. I mean, it's like a whole new house. Yeah. So that's a benefit for those that are able to, if you're a buyer and you're able to find a house that maybe you have some opportunity to fix up. Yeah. Talk to Holly, you talk to people Master Networks, and they get those trades out there, and really you get a top-notch looking home pretty quickly.
Yeah. It makes a difference. And of course I love being a resource for people and just saying, hey, I have a great guy for this. I have a great, gal for that, whatever it is. But it means more having that connection, because if I refer a trade, I trust them, and they know that I only refer them because I trust them. And they don't want to lose trust, right? None of us really want to lose trust with our contacts and the people that we work with and people we refer. So it's a much stronger referral when it comes from somebody who's, I'm just referring trades literally all the time, so it's a stronger
somebody
referral.
That somebody that you like, somebody that you trust. It matters, right?
100%.
Yeah. So as we wrap this up, Holly, I'm going to ask you one final question. Everything we talked about the buyers, we talked about the sellers, we talked about the future, we talked about renting, we talked about getting a career. What's the one takeaway somebody should have from our conversation that we had today? What's the one thing?
If you think you're waiting to get into the market, you're just delaying and potentially costing yourself more money every single day.
Potentially thousands.
Potentially thousands. Jumping into the market, you'll almost never be sorry that you own a home and that you're not flushing that $50 down the toilet to rent, right?
Exactly.
It's your equity. You're building the equity. You're building wealth. And it's the fastest way to do it is to be a homeowner.
There you go. And guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can reach out to Haven Home Team. I'm going to pop up her Facebook one more time as well. You can also reach out to facebook.com/Haven Home Team. And if you go out to her website, which is havenhometeam.com, I will say that's a very nice looking website.
It is. Do you know who created that website, Michael?
I think I do know that team. I think that team's called MichaelTritthart.com. Yeah, that's it.
They're Master Networks too.
Yes. They're one of the vendors in Master Networks from a website.
Crazy how that works.
Crazy. Yeah, crazy. Trusted vendor that's
right.
Looking good. So yeah, go check out her site. I've got a great designer by the name of Jordan. He's like a wonderkin when it comes to creating amazing sites. So
and our site's pretty new, so we haven't even fluffed it up much, and it still looks great. So
yeah, I know we got a little fine tuning to it. Little blue tape that we got to put on the site. And,
that's right. But it looks great right out of the box.
There you go. So I appreciate you being my guest tonight on live, and I know it's your first one that you've done. So hopefully you'll get an opportunity to join us in the future for some other ones. And guys, if you have any questions whatsoever, you can always reach out to Holly. You can reach out to myself. Holly, thanks again for being a guest tonight. Hope you had fun.
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right. We'll talk to you later.
All right. Bye.
Bye.